Shortly after reuniting with his brothers, Raphael had been making his usual rounds with Casey. One night, they ran into human Bebop and Rocksteady chasing a mutant, a female Arctic fox. She introduced herself as Alopex. She had been captured and experimented on with mutagen, and now she was on the run. Seeing himself in her situation, Raphael decided to take her to Master Splinter, and to protect the lair's location, he blindfolded her. But then Raphael started thinking it through, and realized that blindfolding a fox was pointless. A fox should be able to trace its way back, thanks to its enhanced sense of smell. It then dawned on him that the whole thing had been a setup to make him reveal the location of their home. Alopex didn't even try to deny it. She smoke-bombed her way out, back to the Foot Clan. What seemed like a failed mission without consequences would end up changing both Alopex and Raphael's lives in ways they couldn't even imagine. So join me today as I explore the story of Alopex and her fight for her freedom and a place of belonging. Alopex was created by writer Brian Lynch and artist Franco Uru, based on designs by Turtles co-creator Kevin Eastman. It was Eastman's first new character in nearly 15 years, with editor Bobby Curnow helping refine the story. She debuted in the Raphael micro-series in 2011, a special issue that delved deeper into Raphael, inspired by the original Mirage micro-series. That influence shaped her role in the story. The 1985 Raphael issue had introduced Casey Jones as an enemy who quickly became an ally. This time, Brian Lynch wanted to reverse that idea by creating a character who would begin as an ally and be revealed as an enemy. To make that concept work, he needed an animal with an exceptional sense of smell. After some research, he landed on a fox. The Arctic fox, in particular, stood out against the grimy streets of New York. The all-white design also meant that any blood would stand out immediately. Another key influence was Storm Shadow from G.I. Joe, one of Lynch's favorite characters. The name Alopex comes from her genus, Alopex lagopus, which was the name the scientists used for her in the lab. The word itself comes from the Greek alopex, meaning fox, and is often associated with cunning or treachery. While her backstory was already in place, Kevin Eastman added defining visual elements, including the face paint and the shark tooth necklace. Early sketches show that several face paint variants were considered, including pink, red, and purple. The tooth necklace was imagined as a rite of passage trophy. Franco Uru then refined these ideas into Alopex's final design. Like Casey Jones before her, Alopex was designed to reflect Raphael. Both characters are driven by anger and loyalty, creating a cracked mirror dynamic where each can see themselves in the other. This wasn't the first female fox that crossed paths with Raphael. Because of that, longtime fans began to wonder if Alopex was meant to replace Ninjara from the Archie series. Brian Lynch later explained that this was not intentional, as he had not grown up with those stories. After learning about the character, however, he became interested in the idea of the two meeting, something we'll come back to later. In reality, the theory did not hold up. The rights to Ninjara were already part of the Viacom deal, and the character even appeared in the 30th anniversary special. Nickelodeon simply chose to hold her back. After years of lobbying by writer Sophie Campbell, Ninjara was eventually introduced into the IDW universe. But that's a story for later. What was Alopex's true origin? After being transformed from a mindless animal into a lethal ninja, Alopex believed she owed everything to the Shredder. Her memories of her past life were fragmented, but she was part of a family in Fairbanks, Alaska. And even though she was just a pup, she was the hunter of her unit. The reason that the unusual subject was chosen to mutate was that the Shredder wanted an animal that was crafty, fast, and a perfect hunter. After the mutation, she was taught English and Japanese, and trained by the Foot Clan, quickly becoming one of the Shredder's most reliable assassins. Her loyalty was first tested during a confrontation with Splinter. He tried to make her see that she had never chosen this life, that she had been turned into a soldier, and that it was up to her to decide who she wanted to be, instead of remaining Saki's weapon. At the time, her anger drowned out his words, but they must have sunk in by the time she witnessed how the Shredder captured Leonardo and used Kitsune's powers to turn him into his Chunin, especially seeing how Shredder was now favoring Leonardo as his second-in-command, instead of Karai. This also coincided with the Shredder putting Alopex through an initiation rite. She was taken back to Alaska to destroy any evidence of the lab where she had been mutated. But that was not the real test. The true initiation was to burn down the forest where she had grown up. The same forest where her siblings were likely still living. This brought back memories of her life before she was mutated, and in her anger, she attacked the Shredder. He put her in her place, and while she pretended to fall back in line, it was then that it finally clicked for her that she needed to betray her master. That he was as dangerous as the polar bear who used to terrorize her family when she was a simple fox. But the odds were against her. The Shredder was growing stronger by the day, and now he had a turtle under his control. Could she really hope to gain her freedom and find a place where she belonged? Possibly inspired by Karai going off script to create Bebop and Rocksteady, Alopex chose her moment and turned on the Shredder when he was about to kill Splinter. But the attempt failed. Karai struck her down with an arrow, and with the clan now against her, Alopex had no choice but to run. She secretly followed the Turtles and hitched a ride to April's family farmhouse in Northampton, something they only realized once they arrived. Given their history, Raphael was the first to question her presence, but Splinter chose to honor her request for a truce. That did little to ease the tension. Raphael still didn't trust her, and Alopex pushed back. She told him that both she and Leonardo had lost everything, while he still had a family and a home. In her eyes, he couldn't understand what she had been through. That was the moment things began to shift. Raphael started to see her differently. Alopex hadn't joined the clan to become a weapon. She had been searching for a place to belong, for something that gave her purpose. The two started bonding over banter and sparring, but it would take them a long time to learn to trust each other. The Turtles and Alopex parted ways, but after some slight manipulation by Kitsune, she returned to the city. After returning to the city, Alopex chose to work alongside Angel Bridge, also known as Nobody, to help the Turtles. The two quickly became best friends. She learned that Bebop and Rocksteady were planning to ambush them, and it was clear the Turtles would need help against the two mutants. Together, they joined forces with the Turtles and the Mutanimals to stop the attack. During the battle, something shifted between Raphael and Alopex. Finding themselves forced into a ridiculous situation, Raph and Alopex made peace. Seeing how she needed a home, Old Hob offered Alopex a place in his mutant army, but she declined, stating that she had enough armies in her life. Alopex remained by the Turtles' side and played a key role in the defeat of the Shredder. And in the aftermath, she became one of the few people Raphael could truly let in, not just because of what they had been through, but also because they understood each other in a way few others could. Taking advantage of Alopex's nature, Kitsune used her powers to manipulate her into attacking the Foot Clan, breaking her away from Splinter's influence. Ashamed and frustrated, Alopex fled back to Alaska. A microchip implanted by the scientists who had mutated her allowed the Turtles to track her location. Raphael and Angel followed her north, hoping to bring her back. But Kitsune didn't need to follow her to reach her. During their confrontation, Alopex finally began to see the truth. Kitsune had been behind much of the suffering in her life, manipulating events from the shadows, even influencing the Shredder himself. This time, Alopex refused to run. With help from Raphael, who reached her through the astral plane, she found the strength to face Kitsune directly. The witch took the form of the bear that had once hunted her as a pup, turning Alopex's fear against her. But Alopex did not break. She freed herself from Kitsune's control, and in doing so, chose who she wanted to be. As a reflection of that change, she altered her face paint. That experience stayed with her. Later, when Jenica struggled to define herself after being mutated into a turtle, Alopex gave her a yellow bandana, helping her begin to form a new identity. It gave Alopex a sense of purpose, because at the same time, Raphael was slipping away. After being captured and tortured by the EPF, he began to distance himself from her. The trauma eventually pushed him toward Old Hobbs' army, where he unknowingly became complicit in mutating an entire section of the city. The new mutants were confined to a walled-off borough known as Mutant Town. To keep them alive, the federal government provided limited aid. But much of that aid never reached the people who needed it. The mutanimal enforcers were intercepting the supplies, so Alopex stepped in. She set up a soup kitchen in the heart of Mutant Town, ensuring the community had a place to rely on. Later, she moved the operation to the Splinter Clan's dojo, transforming it into a full community center. After being given a green bandana by Leonardo, Alopex was officially welcomed into the clan. For the first time, she truly had a place to belong. Despite the harsh conditions in Mutant Town, the Turtles and Alopex found something they had never experienced before. They were able to live openly and enjoy parts of life they had always missed. Not all of it suited them. During a visit to the Kennel Club, both Raphael and Alopex struggled to enjoy the atmosphere. Instead, they stepped outside to talk. That was when Raphael finally addressed the distance between them. He apologized for shutting her out after his capture by the EPF, and for withdrawing even further while mourning Splinter's death. Alopex accepted his apology, and with a bit of confidence, she made it clear that she was not going to be easy to ignore anymore. That was the moment they shared their first kiss. From there, their bond began to stabilize. They went on dates, helped take care of the younger mutants at the dojo, and even started thinking about the future. But this was only the calm before the storm. A calm that was never going to last. Raphael took on a sheriff role in Mutant Town, which only deepened the tension between them and pushed him further into a combative mindset. Things reached a breaking point when Oroku Saki, who had returned from the afterlife, offered to train the Turtles in mystical techniques to help them face the Pantheon. Since Alopex was now part of the clan, she refused his help. She still carried the scars of everything Saki had done to her. He had destroyed her home, killed her family, and turned her into a weapon. If the Turtles were willing to go ahead with Saki's training, then she was through with the clan. Once again, Alopex chose to walk away. On her own, she changed her face paint and continued helping others. But even that didn't last. Rioters eventually burned down her soup kitchen, taking away the one thing she had built for herself. She later joined Jenica in her fight against the Gang of Four, but seeing Raphael working alongside Old Hob again reopened old wounds. Her heart broke once more. By the end of the Armageddon game, Alopex rescued 3 young mutant weasels from the debris of the Mutant Town wall and took them to her hideout inside an empty water tower to start her own family, the Claw Clan. This wasn't enough to keep Raphael out of her life. After Mushroom, one of the weasels, was kidnapped by Dr. Barlow, she tried to get her back from Leatherhead, but ended up in very poor health. She had no choice but to let the Turtles deal with getting her back. But Raphael, knowing the situation was under control, stayed by her side. After this situation was over and the weasels returned to Alopex, she decided that this urban ninja thing wasn't working. She wanted to show the weasels a different kind of life, in the wild. She said goodbye to Angel and then took a train out of the city. Curiously, Leatherhead was on board as well. It seemed like this was the end of Alopex's story. She was free and raising a family. But fate would force her to face her unresolved conflicts with Raphael. When the disgraced Time Lord Savanti Romero kidnapped the turtles to make them fight in the battle Nexus, he saw Raphael get kicked by Ninjara, which gave him an idea. He brought Alopex into the battle Nexus and made her fight Raphael, a fight he was unwilling to participate in. But Alopex had too much pent-up anger at him after what happened. Raphael tried to reason with her, apologizing for not figuring out a way to defeat the Pantheon that didn't include an alliance with the Shredder. But this was simply not enough for Alopex. She loved Raphael, and therefore this betrayal really broke her heart. Seeing that apologizing wasn't doing anything, Raphael started fighting back. It was a brutal combat that let both sides vent their anger. A clear callback to that time they sparred in Northampton, or during their battle against Bebop and Rocksteady when they made peace. The two started laughing at how badly they were fighting, and finally had a moment of joy, reigniting their love. Their situation reached its climax when chaos broke loose in the arena, and Alopex attacked Ninjara, who was being enslaved by Savanti long enough for Raphael to take the one thing that was keeping Ninjara under his control. It's funny how Alopex and Ninjara avoided the predictable fox fight, treating each other as sisters. After returning to our world, Raphael and Alopex decided to be on good terms again. And while it's unclear where their relationship will lead them, at least Alopex knows she has a family to go back to. Of course, one would have to wonder what the writer's plans are for Ninjara. Would she become part of Alopex's new family, or an antagonist? One thing's for sure, Alopex started as a cool villain and quickly rose in importance until she became a character worthy of adaptation into many games and even a TV show. Brian's idea of making her a cracked mirror of Raphael works especially well in this version of the story. With this Casey being more laid back than the original, Alopex becomes the character who forces Raphael to face the consequences of his anger. What do you think of Alopex's role in this universe? Were the turtles right to side with Saki to save the world? Or was Alopex justified in walking away? And what would you have done in her shoes? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you in the sewers.